Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint some flowers with a butterfly. And I'm going to show you some little tricks to make this really simple, some fun little mini lessons thrown into the middle of the painting like we did last week. It seemed to go over pretty well, so I'm excited to do that and continue this series with you. Tonight, I've got my husband, Mark, with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's man in chat, so if you've got questions, you can ask those as usual, and we'll try to answer. Let's get started. Alrighty, never gets old. I love that new intro. That's so cool. All right, thanks for joining us live. Hope you guys are doing well tonight, and thanks to those who are watching the replay too. Yeah. If you're new to our channel, welcome, and please make sure that you subscribe, leave a like and a comment. We really enjoy getting to hear from you guys, especially if you're new timers. Let us know how you found us and all that kind of good stuff. All right, we've got a mixed media canvas board today. This is a 9x12 size from Fredrix. Really been enjoying using these. Been using them for over a year now, and really like they've got kind of a smooth surface. So I've painted this with one coat of like just a little dollop of paint about that size and a little bit of glazing medium just to make it soak in, and then plenty of water, and used a paper towel and just wiped it on. So you can see it's very, very transparent. Probably more on the paper towel than on the actual canvas. But this is burnt orange, Quinacridone burnt orange. If you don't have that color, you could use like cadmium, Quinacridone Magenta and burnt Sienna or something like that. Just a light orange or a light reddish color in the background will help us today, because we're going to kind of do some orangey colored flowers. So something in that tone doesn't exactly matter, because we're going to be painting over this. It's just going to kind of show and add a little bit of a glow to our undercoat. So don't get caught up on this layer. It's not that important if you don't have that color anymore, because I know it's been discontinued. As far as brushes go, we're going to be using an angle brush, flat brushes, and possibly a couple of Filberts. So you'll want to grab a few different sizes. I've got kind of about a 1/2 inch, I think, sizes here for this size canvas. This is a number 6 and a number 8 from the 6100 series. This is a 6 angle. This is 8 bright, the 4 Filbert, and the 4 flat from the Aspen series from Princeton. And then this one is the Princeton blender from Velvet Touch Blender. All right, our first brush we're going to need tonight, though, is like just a 2-inch flat, and we're going to base in some of our details or our background. And I think I'm going to sketch in my petals. Now, tonight we're going to go over how to do what's called double loading petals. So I'll show you that. I'm going to do the background first, and then we'll do the petals on our flowers after that. Let me think. I guess I'm probably going to want to leave this orangey color underneath the area for my petals. So let me go ahead and sketch in kind of generally where those are going to be, and then we'll be able to paint our background around them. So I'm going to do my vase sort of right in the middle just about. I might move it over just a little bit since we've got that butterfly here. It's going all the way down to the bottom. And it's just a very simple cylinder vase. And then somewhere in here we'll do a water line. You can move it up if you want. And then there is a line for the background or the wall there. And they've got all these fancy angles here. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to keep it simple tonight. We're not really, I don't have time to go into all the fine details. My flower is going to be kind of generally in here. It's sort of a oval-ish, round, circle-y like thing. It's got some petals coming off of it, though, so it's not a perfect circle. This one is facing away, and it's kind of more of a flattened out oval like that. And then this one is opened up over here. I might move it up just a little bit so these are kind of offset a little bit. Maybe move this one down just a little bit and put this one up and out here, and then leave room for our butterfly to go in here somewhere. So there we go. That'll be kind of generally our, I'm going to move that one kind of back here. Maybe move this one down just a little bit. Kind of like having these staggered a little bit more than they are in this photo. And then we'll have some things coming down into the water. So I'm not going to worry too much about anything except for my background. And actually, I may just paint around my object somewhat, not my butterfly. I'm not going to worry about him. I'll put him on later, but let's go ahead and grab this brush. This is that 2-inch Aspen.
And go over our colors?
Yes, let's go over our colors. Thank you. Carbon black, burnt umber. I'm trying to think of a million things here. So burnt sienna, quinacridone burnt orange, and quinacridone magenta. So this color can be mixed with these two. So if you don't have it, that's fine. You just mix up a little bit of it ahead of time. This one is phthalo blue green shade. Cadmium yellow medium this time. I usually use light, but I'm going for a little more golden tone. So this one is cadmium medium. And then this is Unbleached Titanium, Titanium White, Gloss Glazing Liquid. I also am going to be using some fluid acrylics when we get to the part where we do the petals. So I'm going to use a color called Naphthol Scarlet, which is similar to Cadmium Red Medium if you don't have this. If you don't have fluid acrylics, that's fine. You don't have to have them. They just make doing the one-stroke kind of double loading brush strokes that I'm going to show you a little bit easier. So it just kind of makes it a little easier. You can still use the heavy body acrylics. You're just going to have to add quite a bit of water to them to get them a little bit more fluid. So I'm saving a step and I'm going to be using my fluid acrylics for some of this. I have a color called Australian Salmon Gum that I'm also going to be using. If you notice, it is almost the exact color. I pulled this off the cap and it blends right into that background almost exactly. So it is just a pre-mixed color. It's a light orangey pale color that is probably quinacridone burnt orange and white. I'm guessing. I don't have the exact mixture, but I didn't list it in my colors because of that, because we'll be able to mix it with the colors I already have mentioned on my palette. So, but it's also going to be in our flowers. Okay, let's go ahead and get going here because I got a lot to go over tonight. I don't want to waste any time. I'm going to grab some unbleached titanium. If you don't have this, just use titanium white, and you can add a little bit of brown or a little bit of yellow to it, just so you can see it's got a little bit more of a warm undertone than just the straight white. And I'm going to add some burnt umber and maybe a little bit of the phthalo blue. Just going to do a background color here, maybe even just a little bit of the quinacridone burnt orange. And there we go.
And you said that the Matisse colors are more fluid?
Yes, these ones that I have.
Okay.
Yeah, they have heavy body acrylic,
Right.
but these are the ones that these are the fluid.
Okay, perfect.
And I have some fluid golden also that I'll be using. So, but this one and this one are Matisse colors, and I'll also be using their unbleached titanium because these three colors don't come in golden, so that's why I got them in these. So
yeah, and I'm rethinking my desire.
The Blick link down in the description has those that brand, so you can buy them on Blick. That's where I got mine.
Okay.
Yeah. What were you saying?
Oh, I was just rethinking my desire to go to Australia if they got salmon flavored gum.
I think it's a tree, hon. Gum tree, maybe. I'm thinking, but I'm not sure. I don't know.
Is that where salmon come from?
What are you talking about?
Don't worry.
Okay. All right, I am going to be putting in my background here. I'm using this large brush. It's kind of leaving streaks. That's okay. I'm not worried about it. Probably, I probably could do this with a little bit smaller brush and deliberately do some brush strokes. So I may switch over. This is kind of just my initial color, but I do like this color for the background. It's working pretty well. So this was just the unbleached titanium, a little touch of phthalo blue, very, very little bit, a little bit more of the burnt umber, and then a little touch of the burnt orange that's our background color. So I'm going to just keep going here. And I'm not worried about my leaves or anything, but I do want to kind of paint around my flowers and my background here. And let's go ahead and paint that in. That looks good. And any kind of streaks that I don't like, I can just kind of smooth out a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then let's go ahead and lighten it up. So I'm going to get some quinacridone or some unbleached titanium. Oops, I got yellow. Well, that's all right. We'll just make it work. That's okay because yellow would be in the sunlight. So we'll just say this area is getting some sun. It's going to have some brighter color. And we're just going to put that down here. And I'm going to paint this a little bit more loose style. So if you want to, you can leave like, you know, leave your transitions a little messy. You see how you can kind of see that orange color underneath there. You could do stuff like that if you want. I kind of like that look myself. I never tend to do it because I'm just always like super clean and anal about it, but I do really like that look. So sometimes when I'm doing stuff like this, I try to force myself to leave little bits of the background showing and things like that. So try it, see if you like it. If you don't, you can always paint it clean. So, but you may discover you like that style too. Never know till you try it. Okay, I'm going up here, and then let's go ahead and use this color in our vase too. And I'm just going to kind of paint it in roughly. And just go ahead and fill in this vase. Kind of rough. Use a little bit darker color up here, just like in our background. This brush is definitely too big for this. I'm going to switch to a different brush because I'm just having a hard time getting it to do anything for me. All right, let's switch to this brush. This is the 8. This will give me more control. I'm just going to, again, just using these colors I've already mixed. There we go. Get that on there. Getting that lighter color. Use it down here some. Then using that darker color. I'm going to get a little bit more burnt umber. And the other 2 colors there, the burnt umber, the burnt orange, and the phthalo blue here with my unbleached titanium. And let's use it down here to kind of do like a little flat circle, like an oval shape at the very bottom of my glass. All right, looks good. Bring that out just a little bit more straight. And I'm going to draw that in a little bit. Okay, there we go. Very good. All right, and then I'm going to move my water line up just a little bit to right in here. Somewhere. Okay, looks good. Very good. Then I'm going to take some of both of these colors and just kind of dry brush. So dry brushing is something I don't have on our practice sheet for today, but this is something that we'll have in upcoming videos. So you get a little preview of it, but basically you're going to use a brush that is not very wet. You can start with a dry brush. Doesn't have to be dry necessarily. It helps though if there's not a lot of moisture in it, and you can see how the way I've loaded it, that brush, the brush bristles are spread apart. So that's how you can kind of tell that your brush is dry too. So doing that, and then also the way I'm loading it, I'm just kind of flicking it through the paint and kind of pressing down so that it opens up a little bit more, and so that opens it up. And then I'm going to just very lightly, we will be doing some of this, what I'm calling flicking technique. So this one is going to be one that we'll practice later, but this is sort of a dry brush hybrid of that technique that we'll be showing you later here in a minute.
Now, is the single air quotes different than the double air quotes?
Shut up.
I was just wondering if there was significance in the art world.
I don't know.
Okay. You artists are kind of wacky sometimes.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to get some white here, and when I want it to go on smoothly, though, if it's really giving me trouble, then I'm going to have to add a little bit of water. So, and I'm going to go ahead and just define that line a little bit better right there. And just pulling down. So this is, I'll show you this technique here in a minute, but this is just basically what I'm calling flicking, for lack of a better word. Blending technique. So it's like you're not fully blending it. It leaves this really rough, dry brushed, kind of nice painterly style look to it. Okay, so let's go ahead and set this aside to dry. And while that's drying, we'll work on our techniques. So this is the one that I was just doing. We'll do that here in a minute. But this is the first one that I wanted to do. Is called double loading. And we're going to be using it mostly just on our petals tonight. You can also use it for leaves. We don't have a ton of leaves on this one, so I'm not really probably going to use it. I'll probably just paint those in regular. Because it saves time in the long run probably, but it does take a little bit more preparation time ahead of time. But this is a great technique. Just it's also called one stroke. So shout out to the OG Donna Dewberry who invented this style way back in the 90s, I think. Maybe before that, I don't know. That's when I was doing it. It's been around a long time, and it's great for flowers. It does, like I said, take some knowledge of how to load your brush, and you have to kind of load it more slowly than you would, if you were just kind of grabbing your paint and going. So a lot of the work is done on the palette and not on the canvas, if that makes sense. So a lot of the blending and everything is done basically ahead of time on your brush on the palette. And then you, sorry, I'm just cleaning off my palette and my hand here. So I've got a good spot to work on. I'm going to put out my colors that we'll be using on our flowers. So you're going to want 3 colors. You want a light, medium, and dark. And it doesn't really matter as long as they blend well together. So in our case, we're going to use the Scarlet Red, Naphthol Scarlet for our, whoops, can you open? You're probably going to get paint on your hands.
Am I going to
open? Take the thing off of it. Take the safety cap off of it. This is the medium color. And I'm going to use the Unbleached Titanium for my light color.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Squeeze it.
Okay. There we go. So there's our 3 colors. And it's nice if the middle color is kind of the other 2 blended, but it doesn't have to be. So in this case, this one is a little bit more, the middle color is a little bit more of a orangey tone than our red is, but it'll be great. These 3 will blend really well together. And then I'm going to put out some magenta too, just in case I need it to darken up my red, the darkest part of the red there. And I'm also going to put out a little bit of the Quinacridone Burnt Orange because it is also going to be able to be darkening, and it's going to give it a little bit more of that orangey tone. The magenta will make it a little bit maybe too pink, so I've got both of those just in case. And then I'm going to put out a little bit of cadmium yellow medium just for the center of the flower, and in case I want any yellow in my highlights. And then lastly, I'm going to put out some of the titanium white. I don't know why I shook that up because this one doesn't need to be shaken. The golden don't have to be shaken, the Matisse do. They settle. All right, so you can do this technique with a flat brush or a angle brush. You can also do it with a Filbert, but it works really best with a brush that has a straight angle, and you have to pretty much do it with the flat brush. You can do some of these with a round brush, but in our case, for what we're doing for these petals, you're going to want a flat brush or an angle brush. The difference between the two, and I'm not seeing this if you're trying to show it on the side cam, it's not showing.
I'm not.
Okay.
You want it on the side cam?
Yeah, that's what I thought we were doing.
Well, I know.
Okay.
Sorry, I was.
Okay. So the thing with this is you're going to, there we go. You're going to want to keep your hand, the brush at a right angle to the canvas. So with a flat brush, you can see how my hand has to compensate for this flat angle to keep it upright. If I'm using an angle brush, the angle is doing a lot of that work for me, and I can hold it in a little bit more natural position. So here is the flat position, and here is the angle position. So you can see how the angle brush is a little bit easier to do this. If you don't have one, that's fine, but it will make it a little bit easier. So that's what I'm going to use. And I'm going to start out by loading it straight 100% with my middle value color. And then I'm going to take it and press it flat, and you do want a brush that is going to come to a flat point. We talked about with the dry brushing how we were trying to open up the bristles, and to open them up we were kind of flicking it through the paint like this, and that will kind of open up those bristles and make them spread apart. For this, we want to hold it kind of almost perpendicular, or not perpendicular, like almost flat to the palette when we're loading it, to really press it down and press that paint all the way through and make sure we've got a really nice fine bladed edge to our brush, okay? Then we're going to dip the tip into the light color and blend that in. And then as you blend it, you will notice that the medium color kind of disappears a little bit. So I'm going to dip the back end of it into it and push that back in, and that will kind of push that highlight color back in. And you just go back and forth until you get those two blended pretty well. Those look good. And then I'm going to get the darker color and then do the same. And I want to stay in the same place and also not move it. I'm not moving it this way, because if I start to go like this, what I'm going to do is load up that light color through the middle of my brush. I don't want that to happen. I can kind of rock it back and forth a little bit if they're not blending at all, but I want to mostly stay in the same place. Okay, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. So now you can see I've got all three colors on my brush blended at once. So this is double loading, in this case triple loading my brush for the brush stroke. What you can do is do all of your petals in the same direction, so that when you're first starting out, it can be a little bit tricky. Once you get comfortable with this first one, then you can kind of start playing with doing it in all directions. But at first, just kind of try to work it in one direction. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to want to start here. I'm going to want to end here. So you can see my brush is going to have to turn itself. And to do that, I'm just going to hold with my thumb right at kind of wherever the comfortable spot is that I think I can make that whole turn. So kind of practice it ahead of time. You can turn your brush or your canvas pad, in the direction until you feel like you've got a comfortable range of motion there. And I'm just holding it, resting on this finger. This finger is stabilizing it. So it's not gonna, because I'm pushing on the brush. So this finger is going to be pushing against it to keep it in place and keep me from pushing my brush off my hand. So this thumb is doing all the work. All right, these two fingers are just resting and pushing back I'm kind of pinching these two fingers together as I'm pushing up on my thumb. So the motion is I'm starting at the very tip of my thumb there and pushing so that brush is going to roll away from me. All right, and I'm kind of starting right about the middle of the pad on my thumb, but you can kind of just see whichever placement works best for you. So you may have a smaller thumb than me and need to start it out a little bit sooner. So just kind of play with it. The more you do this, the more comfortable you get with it. I tend to like to hold it right about where the silver and the brush meet, the silver ferrule and the belly of the brush meet. And so I'm going to start here and I'm just going to push up a little bit as I'm turning it. So I'm going to set my brush down, push down so that those bristles are flaring out. Press up and just wiggle it a little bit. Wiggle, wiggle, and I'm just very, very gently, as I'm turning, pushing with my thumb. And then once I get it to where I want it to go, I'm just going to start to lift and let it rest back on itself. Okay, so that's the motion. It's kind of there's a lot going on there. So I'm trying to break it down for you so you kind of get an idea of how to do it. So again, loading my brush, and I was talking a lot, so usually I can get probably about two petals on here. My paper is going to soak up that moisture of my brush strokes too, so that will make a difference. If you're doing this on a canvas, you can get more petals out of one brush load. So this time I'm going to start just on the inside of this. I'm going to start in the same place, and this is kind of the center of my flower here. So I'm going around it, up, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle as I'm turning, and then once I get back to where I think I like it, I'm just going to pull it down here. Then I can use that back into my brush and just kind of pull that color through the middle of the flower. And then, like I'm saying, I'm going to turn. I suggest you turn it each time. And that way you're getting a feel for the motion and doing it in the same direction every time. It'll just make it a little bit easier to build up that muscle memory. Once this gets to be fairly easy for you, then I would start to do things like trying to do it in this direction and pulling it, towards yourself and, upside down and that kind of thing. All right. So that will be our basic brush strokes. Let me go ahead and do one that is all on its own so you can see, but that's what we're going to do for our flowers. I'm going to do one over here that is just too much paint. I didn't get any of the light color on there. Let me get some of my white. All right, and then let me get a little bit more of the red. Try it again with the red. There we go. That's better. Now you're seeing it. All right. Then the middle petals are going to be kind of a variation of them. So some of the petals are going to be in the middle section, especially like on a rose, you may only do part of it. So I'm going to set it down and kind of do it down towards myself this time and pull along the edge of the brush. So I'm just doing like a little, maybe quarter turn, if that, and then just kind of sliding it like that. So that'll be another petal that we'll do that will kind of fill in some of the gaps and things. But all right, so those are our petals. Now, if we're doing leaves, I'll go ahead and show you a leaf. I'm not going to load it up for a leaf, but basically a leaf is very similar, but we're going to do from here to here. So all of these brush strokes, you're going to be using that thumb motion, just like we did before, and you're going to be setting your brush down and pushing from here to here and lifting as you're pushing, okay? And then you can twist it around and do it in the opposite direction and fill in and do more wiggles and get it real fancy with it. But that's the basic stroke for our leaves, okay? So then let's go ahead and do this flicking one down here that we were talking about. It's probably a bad name for it, but I don't know. I don't have a better name for it, so... So with this one, what you're going to do is, and we're going to use this on our butterfly. We also used it in our background a little bit, but you're going to take your color, and really doesn't matter which color it is. I use this all the time when I'm doing loose flowers and things. So let's just kind of pretend like we're doing a wedge shape. So we're going to kind of start out with this kind of wedge shape. This will be kind of like our butterfly wing, right? And you could do any number of shapes. So maybe let's do kind of a rounded shape here. All right. And then you're going to grab your other color. And for this one, actually the heavy body acrylics work a little bit easier. So I'm going to switch back over to my heavy body acrylics and get some of my Quinacridone burnt orange here. And you don't have to do this when this paint is wet. Right now this paint is really wet, and so this will blend a little bit nicer for us. But when this paint is dry, this works as well. So what I'm going to do is just set my brush down and basically do a almost like a fulcrum. Oh, sorry, move my hand there. Like holding it a little bit farther back. You can see how far back I am. I'm not holding it up here because what I'm trying to do is kind of use the length of that brush to create a pivot point. So I'm going to set it down and just flick it right there. So if I use the side of my brush, I'm going to get these nice lines. If I use the flat end of my brush, I'll get a little bit more of a blend. But you see how that works? Really nice. And then I can do this as many times as I want. Once this dries, I can go back in. It makes it really easy to blend without actually blending. It's like, I'm calling it like a loose blend. It optically blends it, but you're not actually having to physically like have a really clean blend between the colors. And then using it for the highlight color, I'm just going to get some white here and blend it in to what's on my brush and go in the opposite direction with my highlights. So, and this could be like the tips of our petals, setting it down and just really quickly. Mark had trouble with this technique. We did it on our swans. I remember you did not like this one. I think you were trying to pull. So that's a tendency, is you're thinking you're wanting this paint to get from here to here. So if you pull it, you're going to end up just with this, right? If I start to pull my brushes, what I'm wanting is this. Okay, so that's the difference. If I move my hand and pull down, I'm going to get a solid color. But if I just keep my hand steady and flick my hand and pull it just towards myself, using this finger to just push it towards myself. And this is holding it in place this time. I'm not pivoting, I'm not twisting it, I'm not doing anything but just pushing with this finger in towards, but quickly. So that brush, I'm just setting it barely down on the canvas or the paper, so that it's just making contact and then just pushing real fast to get it to create that, okay? So we can also do it along the edges. So I can kind of flick it along the edges and put the paint like a little bit more solid along that edge and then wipe my brush out. And then just flick. I still have a little bit of that lighter color on there. Let's do this lighter color on this side. So I'm following the edge, the curve of the object, wiping my brush, and then just kind of flicking towards the middle right there. Okay, getting a nice soft blend without actually having to do a lot of the work. And then if you get too much covered up or whatever, you can get your middle color, whatever that middle value is, and just go lightly back and forth over those and softly blend them out. Really, really easy way of blending, and we'll use it a lot on our petals and probably tonight on our butterfly for sure. All right, so there's your practice for this week. Do this. If you do it and post it, you can use the hashtag TAG23petals. TAG is Thankful Art Goals 23 for 2023. What year is it? I did that last week too.
Tag 23 petals.
Tag 23 petals.
So real quick,
post it.
with the brush
Yes.
and the flicking motion.
Yes.
Is it easier if you have a long-handled brush?
It is.
Okay.
Yes, it is. But you can still do it with a smaller brush. You just have to hold it like almost on the end.
Okay.
Like, I can do it with this brush. I just have to hold it basically on the end of it and just kind of, do like that.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
yeah. Just gives you a little bit more to hold on to is all. Okay, so here we go. We got this is dry. Let's go ahead and work on this. And wow, that's almost an hour just for that. Sorry. All right, so let's go ahead and do our petals. We'll go ahead and get those in, and then we'll work on our vase and things. Actually, no, we need to get our vase in because that's going to be underneath the rest of everything. So let's go ahead and do that first. Do our vase.
Very nice.
So yes, we had really good feedback. Like we normally get, I don't know, 40, 50 comments maybe. I had like 100 comments in the first week, or it's probably more than that now with last week's video that we did on, that was your, I thought you were clapping at me. I was like, what? Yeah, I know. On the seascape. So if you missed that, we went over how to get perspective with mark making. All right, so burnt umber and quinacridone burnt orange and a little bit of phthalo blue. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow because I want it to be slightly green. So that blue in there, add a little bit more of the blue. There we go. Okay, that'll be good. I might add a little bit of black because I want it a little bit darker, a little bit more gray. That looks good. All right, so I'm going to use this as my kind of base color for my dark color on my vase. Let me get some more of this unbleached titanium here. Let's start out with a mid-tone. I don't want to go straight into the darkest darks, but let's go ahead and define this line of this vase. And I'm going to go on the outside where I see the dark down here, and I'm just going to kind of tap it here. And just kind of slightly pull it in, not doing a whole lot with it. And then I want quite a bit more of the lighter color here. We'll just keep on going down with it. There we go. Okay. And then let's do the same on this side. So it looks like our darkest part starts right about in here somewhere. So kind of like that. Trying to keep this sort of at the right angle here to the rest of things. The butterfly is going to be covering this, so I'm not really having to worry too much about this not being very well blended there. I'm going to get some more of that kind of mid-tone color and go in just a little bit on my glass with it. I'm just using this brush to kind of dab it on kind of randomly. Okay, let's get a little bit more of it, and let's go ahead and define that water line a little bit lighter color this time. So if you wanted to do a color string of this with various tones, you could, this would be helpful, this color, because we'll use several different varieties of this color in our water, in our glass, I should say. Okay, that looks good. Let's go ahead and kind of fill it in here. Get a little bit of that darker color. Adding it randomly in a few places in the top of my water. My stems of my flowers are going to come down through there, so I'm going to have some reflections of those happening. And use some different tones here just to kind of fill in the base of my vase here. Base of vase. And get my darkest color right there at the bottom. Just kind of dabbing it around, okay? Then going to use some white or some glaze with this dark color here, this kind of mid-tone dark, and I'm just gonna pull it out on my kind of underneath my vase a little bit and to the side slightly, just whatever width I think my vase is gonna be from the side here, and just pull it out. I'm gonna use my finger to just kind of press that out. Okay, you can use that flicking technique too if you want. Just kind of flick it in that direction and then use the lighter color to flick it back and forth if you want it a little bit more solid instead of transparent. So either way works. Just a little. There we go. That looks good. All right, let's use a little bit of this in my water. All right, that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna spray this so it doesn't dry out on me, and make a green for my petals. So this is a good green for kind of my glass, but I want a little bit of green for my petals. So I'm going to go ahead and use phthalo blue and burnt sienna, which will make a kind of a turquoisey blue. And then I'm going to add some cadmium yellow medium to make it a little bit more of a Kelly green, but that burnt sienna in it will keep it from being too bright. All right, that looks good. Let's go ahead and do a green leaf like right here. And just gonna do like that. Let's do one that's got a little bit more white. Now when you add white to it, you see what it does? It kind of tones it down. It makes it very like neutral and almost like sage. So if you want to brighten it back up, you can add a little bit of yellow and that will perk that color back up and make it look a little bit brighter. All right. I'm gonna add a little bit of light green there and do another one kind of coming out right here and down. And then maybe a little bit of this darker color underneath. Okay, wiping that out, and then I'm just going to kind of use the brush and blend out. Maybe give this one a little highlight, get some of that lighter color, and maybe do a vein through it. Okay, that looks good. Gonna get some of it over here. And our butterfly's gonna go in this area, so I'm not gonna do too much, but go ahead and put another leaf kind of coming down this way that'll go underneath the butterfly probably. All right, and let's go ahead and use this on our vase or on our stems. So let's do like, I'm just going to use the width of the brush to kind of guide the size of this. Just pressing down. Once I hit the water, I want to make sure that I change the direction. So I'm going this way. I'm going to move it just a little bit over so that it gets displaced by that water. Okay. Something like that. And then let's go ahead and do another one here. These are all pretty much the same size, same color at this point, so I'm not going to worry too much about the highlights and things. I'm just going to put them in kind of flat for now, and then we'll change it up after we get it on here. When it hits the water, it kind of distorts, and then you may not see it exactly, and then it'll show up where you least expect it. No. Just distort it a little bit, that's all. Okay. And then let's do one more. Not sure why there's like 5 stems in the water when there's only 4 blossoms, so I'm just gonna do 3. 3 for 3 flowers. Call that good enough. Okay, looks good. We'll let that dry. I don't like how these are both parallel there. I don't know how that happened. Let me see if I can get that one off. I'm going to push it up underneath. Yeah. I'm going to move it to kind of turn, curve. There we go. Okay. Move that one over. Looks good. And I'm not worried about that. We'll just cover it with a little bit of our background color and get some of that background. There we go. Okay. And then I'm going to get some yellow. And some of this light green here. And some white. Kind of create a, maybe even get some of that color in there. Yeah, kind of a neutral light green. This one had black in it, I think, so I'm going to use that to draw in my highlights on my stems. Kind of doing it towards the left side here, keeping it very loose, just barely brushing it on here. like it. And then every now and then on here, there's like a little nubbin of something. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I put some of those in here. And you can see I'm not being super careful about my edges and my borders here. I'm just making sure I'm getting some interesting movement, getting, being cleanish, but I'm not making sure my edges are perfectly clean. This is like that painterly effect that I was talking about earlier. And getting that loose, quote unquote, kind of have to be a little bit sloppier than you might normally be. And that's fine if you don't like that style. You can be a little bit more careful with it, but I do like that style, so I'm trying to kind of incorporate it a little bit more into my art. And just kind of holding my brush a little farther back and letting marks happen that are not necessarily perfect. But if you do enough of them kind of in the right general area, they look good. I don't know. That's the mystery of painting in this style. It's like there's a fine line between really sloppy and gross and really amazing. So you just kind of have to find that for yourself, what you like. Should say not sloppy and gross, but you know what I'm saying. Like, where you're like, that's not quite it. Going a little bit dark just on the inside of the water line there. Sort of between my leaves there, or there. There's going to be a little bit of that. And then let's go ahead and do some reflections in the glass down here and down here. A little bit like that. Okay, that looks good. Get some of this lighter color. I'm going to add it. This is that flicking technique, just kind of dabbing it on very loosely.
So I notice you're using that same angle brush to do multiple different things. Like you're just using the very tip of it.
Right.
And you're using the whole
can turn
brush and get all these different looks from one brush.
Right. It does a lot. This is when people ask me like what brushes to buy. This is like the number one first brush you want to get. This one in a good round can go a long way, and then like maybe a large flat if you need to, but you can get a sponge brush to do a lot of the large flat work. Like instead of this brush, you could use a sponge brush that only costs $1 or $2 until you can afford a better brush. But the sponge brush is what I used with my kids' classes for years, and it works just fine. It holds a lot of water though. You can't clean it out in your water. You can have a mess. I learned that the hard way. I learned a lot of things the hard way. That's why I like to do these videos, because I'm like trying to help you not make the same mistakes I made over the last 30 years that I've been painting.
Okay, glad you qualified painting there.
Well, there's only one of you to go around, and I'm not sharing, so that's all I'm saying about that. I'm not going to teach them all my tricks.
It was a pretty simple trick to give me.
Well, you were only 17, so
it involved green polyester.
You didn't know much better. Oh, goodness. We're like, what are we watching? What are they talking about? All right, I'm going to clean this off. Because that's all dried. You don't want dried paint little bits because it flakes off and it creates problems. So I don't want any of that in my... This is just a glass palette that I'm wiping off here. It's coming off pretty easily. Maybe I should have used my scraper, but I didn't want to get that wet paint in my scraper. It's already messed up enough. All right. Let me get a clean workspace here. Close enough.
So while you're cleaning that, I mentioned the Patreon.com
Yeah.
/AngelaFineArt, where you can support the channel and get bonus content and stuff. So
Yeah, I'll have the traceable for tonight on there.
yeah, starting at the $2 level, you get traceables going back to February 2017 for all the YouTube videos.
Yeah. That's unlimited downloads for $2. So
that's a pretty good deal right there.
Lot of downloads. If I was selling them individually, they would be $1 each. So if you download more than 2 a month, you're getting a deal.
Voila.
All right.
And then there's the $5, $10 other stuff.
Yes. And we're doing a bonus video in a couple weeks. I just put out my schedule, so if you want to see that, we're going to do some stacked farm animals.
Nice.
I'm so excited about it. I saw it on a TikTok video.
As we are in nature.
It was a little baby goat riding a sheep, and he was owning it like a boss. It was hilarious, and I was like, okay, I need to paint that, and so I stuck a rooster on top too. I made my own version, obviously, but anyhow. All right, so I'm gonna do the red and the light color here. I think I need that mid-tone in there. All right, we'll see. I might need the white instead of the unbleached titanium, though. I think the unbleached titanium is too close in value to this one. It's not showing up very good. And really, honestly, probably a bigger brush would help too, because this brush is a little bit small for 3 colors. But we'll do the best we can. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it up here. And I'm going to start out with my outer petals. So I always want to kind of start on the outside petals and work my way to the center. So we'll do a nice long one there. And do some more. And then I'm just going to kind of use the end of my brush and pull down here. Okay, I'm going to put this petal in front. So you can come back in with other colors and do it again too. So it's like you don't have to, if you didn't do it the first time or you didn't like it, you're not stuck with it. You can always go back in, and you can always, like, I also will probably come back in and highlight some of these and add little flicks of other colors into here once we get this on here. So let's go ahead and do some more petals here. And then let's get some white here, get some of that red. Let's do a nice big one right here. Comes across. And this will basically be our inside of our flower. And then I'm going to just do this dark red in the middle and pull it up into this area. And do that flicking motion to kind of just blend it up. Okay. Dark. Let's go a little bit. I'm going to get this burnt orange and go even darker down in here. Kind of in this area. The bottom of it. Okay, wiping that brush out, and then right here I just want to blend that in a little bit with what we've got. So just gonna flick it back and forth. There we go. Okay, looks good. Get some more white, going back into that area. I'm gonna get some of that darker color, and let's do a petal that kind of comes up in between right here. And if you're not seeing the separation too much, you can go back in and get just a little bit of your white and just do it right at the top where you want it a little bit brighter. There. Okay. And then I'm going to have some petals coming this way. I'm going to get my white, a little bit of that orangey color. And coming in like this. And remember that little sideways petal. And then we're going to do some that kind of close up the opening that go across like that. Okay, so maybe one right here. Whoop. Picked up a little bit of that. I got too close to that red. There, let's go and do one here. I should have done this one first. So I'll do this one first. And then we'll do these ones that are kind of underneath, overlapping here. And then to tuck it in here, I'm just going to push up on it a little bit to end it. So I'm going to kind of come across, and then I'm going to try to tuck it up and end it right in line with that petal there. So it just kind of disappears up into that. Let's do a petal right here. This is how I used to paint all the time. This is bringing back some memories. Oh, not all good, but I gotta admit, I do like this kind of painting, but it is, I don't know. I kind of like to play with. It does look pretty though. I do like it. I can't say I don't like it. I'm kind of not my favorite anymore. I don't know. I think I'm too impatient with all of the loading and all of that. So turning it and pushing up until it kind of blends right there, and then there's another petal that kind of hangs off here, tucked down in there. Okay, I think that flower's pretty much done. I might go back in and add to it, but that looks pretty good. So there we go. The nice thing about it is you've done all the work ahead of time, and now we're pretty much done. So we don't have to go back in and mess with it too much. You know, I tend to fiddle with my paintings a lot. So it's...
You?
What?
No.
Don't be a hater.
No, I'm just surprised. No.
You've never known me to do that?
No.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
3 hours later. Okay, I need to get that sound effect.
What is that from?
SpongeBob.
SpongeBob? Okay. Yeah. That's what I was going to say. I thought it was SpongeBob, but... That's funny. 3 hours later. What time is it? 7. We're doing good.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I wasn't talking about
one
anything.
Flower down. We're good. I'm just kind of varying up. You can see I'm kind of just using different tones here just to get different shades in my petals. There's no real rhyme or reason necessarily, except for I do want these petals to be a little bit lighter because these are more in the light. So I do want to go a little bit more with the white, and I'm using a little bit of the heavy body white just to thicken it up a little bit because I feel like it wasn't covering as well as I wanted it to. Okay, that looks good. Much better. I am getting little bits of paint stuck in there. So I think I'm going to add a little bit of this burnt orange to this. It'll give it kind of a little bit of a different undertone instead of just the red. Okay, come on. There we go. Yeah, so you can see the difference there. It's just a little bit peachier. That's nice. I like that. Okay. So here I'm going to kind of push up, and these tones are all pretty close together as far as the values. They're not all that different in this flower, so I don't have to have all 3 values. I can just kind of keep them pretty much middle tones-ish, mid to light tones. There we go. Get some of that brighter, thicker white on my brush here. I see a petal that I missed on this one. Let's do this one here that comes across, kind of fills in right there. Hope you guys are liking this. I haven't done one like this ever, I don't think. I don't know why. I don't know. Like I said, I've kind of just haven't done this in so many years.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. I don't know why I haven't. I think I've seen other people doing it, and I didn't want to overlap other channels this is their bread and butter that they do all the time, you know.
Right.
So they obviously do it better than me because I don't do it that often anymore. So if you're really into this style, there's lots of channels out here that do just this.
We got good bread and butter here.
There's one, I can't think of his name. Is it Alexander? No, it's, oh shoot, I can't remember his name. That there's a dude on here he's old school, like he's been around for a long time, and he does gorgeous flowers this way, and like he'll take his finger and kind of wipe out the edges and do these really soft blendy roses and things that are just stunning, that look realistic. Like he doesn't do the kitschy they're realistic. That's it. I'm not gonna say anything bad about the one stroke style. It's beautiful on its own. It's just got it's not realistic looking, you know, it's more painterly kind of style. So I like his style of roses. Very, very nice. I can't think of his name though. Sorry, whoever you are. I would give you a shout out if I could remember your name.
Is this it?
Yes, I think so.
Let me
David Jansen. Yeah. Yeah, look it up and see. I think that's exactly who it is. Somebody had been mentioning it, and yeah.
It was Sheila.
Sheila, yeah. I think that's
so we'll
the
see if
person.
Sheila gets bonus points or not.
No, but like I said, you know, that's kind of the reason I haven't done it, because, you know, he does it like 20,000 times better than me. I'm not doing a great job on this one. I don't really like how it's turning out, but we'll keep messing with it and see what
flowers on there. Does that look okay?
Mm-hmm. Does he do YouTube videos? That's the guy that I'm thinking of does YouTube videos of it.
He has YouTube videos.
Okay, then yeah, it's probably him.
Oh, I thought it was in YouTube. Obviously not.
That was just Google results.
Yeah.
Okay.
In YouTube.
I'm pulling down here to kind of create these petals instead, because I didn't really like how they were looking. Okay, I'm going to leave that one alone. I'll probably come back in once it's dry, but it's also one thing with this one is you can get like too much paint on there at one time, and if you don't let the layers dry, they'll just like do weird things on you. Yep, that's the guy. David Jansen. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yep, that's him. Check him out if you like this style. He's got gorgeous roses and things. He makes the look super easy too, but they take practice. So they're not as easy, obviously, as he makes it look. She says as she struggles for the next hour on this one petal. All right, I'm going to let that, like I said, let that dry, because I've got like 4 layers on there, and it's just not wanting to accept any more paint right now. And I think it would help if I had a little bit bigger brush. I think I'm going to switch to this 8. Because that way I can get a little bit bigger petals on here. And I'm going to go with the mid-tone and my white. And my red. Okay. I'm going to go up over this, so a lot of this is going to be covered up anyways. I don't know why I'm stressing out about it, because it's all going to be covered right there. Okay.
makes it hard to hear you.
Really pretty. Pretty. Also, you need to have your white, opaque enough. So if you're using a craft acrylic, you may not get good coverage. You may have to do it a couple of times to get it to cover in if you're going over darker areas. So you may have to, make sure that you've got this lighter mid-tone underneath where you want to put your white, because otherwise it's not going to cover up your dark green if you're using a craft acrylic for this, which is what I used when I was doing it, which was those cheaper acrylic paints that come in all the different fluid colors, and makes it really easy to do this technique with them. Okay, so I'm going to start at the middle of my flower and push up, pushing really hard so I'm getting good spread on my bristles there. Okay, I'm going to do another one. Oh my God, I blew. I knew I was going to do that. Shoot.
Well, we need to stop the show.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, no, it's over.
It's ruined. Did I ruin everything?
The show is over.
I
Sorry,
ruined
folks.
it.
Thanks for tuning in.
We're going to bury this painting in the backyard, pretend like it never happened.
Yeah.
No, we can recover.
Okay.
Mark is so silly. So dramatic. You're being so extra right now. Stop.
Extra.
I keep hearing that everywhere. I'm sure that's been around since, forever, but I'm just hearing it now. That's always the way, right? I tried to use the I ship that, like that kind of saying in a sentence, and my daughter-in-law looking at me like I was crazy. So I'm sure I didn't use it right. Courtney was like, "No, don't. That's not it. You don't want to say that."
Well, you're technically not a boomer. Come on. Come on, boomer.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the other new, hey boomer. Okay, boomer. My daughter, or one of my best friends, said her teenage son calls her that all the time. She's like, "I am not a boomer." It's like
Gen X, baby.
It's the new insult. So not right. Which is, I guess, saying, you're kind of like stuck in your ways and, not really willing to be flexible, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it means. Which I hope that's not the case for us. Try not to be, at least. But we're Gen Xers, right?
Yep.
What are our boys? Are they millennials? Are they?
Yes.
No, Spencer's a millennial. No, they're millennials. Okay.
So Nathan and Jordan are millennials.
Okay.
Spencer's Generation Z.
Gen Z.
Gen Z.
I've heard that. Yeah.
And we have a good friend who used to go around and teach.
I think he still does.
On the generational differences to help people learn how to
marketplace
to deal with and manage people at different times in their life and
generations.
I will say I thought it was a bunch of malarkey until he did an exercise with us one night, and he handed out a sheet of a hypothetical situation, broke up everybody into their age groups, read it, and when we were done, he was like, okay, the boomer generation, this is what you thought of it, and Gen X, this is what you thought, and so on. And he had it nailed.
Yeah, he did it without us even having to say what we had decided as a group.
It wasn't anything negative. It just based upon when you were born and your experiences. This is how
This is how you look at authority, and then
Right.
where you go to find your information to make
Right.
decisions
Yep.
and things like
so
that.
that helps people who are leading people to know, okay, when I talk to this person,
Right.
this is how I need to do it. When I talk to that person,
Right, that's how I
might
need to
change it up a
approach
little bit.
Yeah, it was very interesting. It did explain a lot about our kids, that's for sure, because they were teenagers at the time that we did that, and I was not getting it, some of the stuff they were doing, but it did help me see. Mainly just communication, skills, just kind of, like you said, kind of knowing where they go for their information and that kind of thing. All right, so these are kind of built like roses. These are peonies, obviously, but it's similar with petals. Generally, you're going to have them overlapping each other, brick style. So you have two that are meeting here, and you're going to have the third one kind of coming in front. So I'm going to put that one there, like that. Okay, and then let's go ahead and do one. I'm going to make this one a little bit brighter and make it up a little higher. There we go. And then let's do one that's kind of in between there. I'm doing a lot of wiping off my brush too, you notice, so I'm wanting to make sure that I'm keeping my brush clean and with the right colors. Okay, so I've got a kind of a mess here in the middle, and I'm just going to, if I was David Jansen, he would just take his finger and go like this. He does that all the time, which it does make it faster, so I probably need to just do that. But then I end up with dirty fingers. I don't like to paint that way, so. So you can get your darker color and kind of go in the opposite direction with it. Or I'm going to just add a little bit of this darker color back in to the middle here where I'm going to put my lighter colors. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I'm going to put some of this darker color here too. And I'm noticing like right in here, this kind of dried a little bit dark. I put in some dark on this one too, so I could put a couple of the lighter petals back in. So once that's dry, I can put in my white petals back in there. And I can actually, instead of double loading it, I can just single load it. So I can just do the corner of the brush too. That's called floating. So that's a whole nother lesson. But you can float with this too to create. So I'm going to do that with the white and just do a couple of white petals right in here that don't have anything but the white on the tip. That looks pretty good. That's fixing that. Looks good. All right, pretty happy with that. Bringing some petals down. It's overlapping some of these a little bit. All right, just until you get it to where you like it, The main thing I think is just to make, keep an eye on your values. So just making sure you're getting your brights bright enough. So like in here, I've got kind of too much mid-tone, so I'm just going to go back in with my white here and add some of it in my brightest areas of my flower, just along the tips there. Oh, I've got that pretty soupy. I don't want it to quit. Okay, there we go. And all right, that looks pretty good, I think. Close enough. Let's go ahead. I'm going to use let me go ahead and use this brush, and I'll just put in my center of my flower. Get some yellow. I'm going to get some of the burnt orange and burnt sienna there at first too. That's fine too. And I'm just going to tap in my center of my flower here. Looks pretty good. And get a little bit more of that burnt orange. Tap that in. I'm using the blender brush now. I'm going to get a little bit of that red too. Tap, tap, tap. And I'm going to use it on this side of it to add some shadows. Right there. Wipe that out. That looks pretty good. Then I'm going to get my Unbleached Titanium with my yellow. Maybe a little bit of the white. And I'm going to just kind of dab in my center of it. Wipe that off. And then I'm going to go back to my angle brush here. And get my yellow. Cadmium yellow. I'm just going to go ahead and see. I'll add a little bit of that darker color, but I'm just to see how this covers. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to use this and dab it on here. What time is it? 7:22. Oh, we're making decent progress. I mean, I've got some good looking flowers for in a very short amount of time using that process. So it would take me a lot longer to do these realistically if I wasn't using that technique. So to say it is effective. And I'm going to put a little bit of this in here. You can just barely see a little bit of these poking in right here. Maybe a little bit of the yellow. Right. And then I think I'm going to add a little bit of white with this. Do very light highlights on a few of them. Okay, I'm going to call that good. Very fast, right? Super easy. Let's go ahead and do I need to do some highlights in our glass here, so let's go ahead and do that before I do my butterfly. I'm going to get some of the white, if I can get some that's clean. It's alright if it's not fully clean. That works. It's got a little yellow in it. It's alright. I'm going to use the glaze to make it a little bit more transparent. The white's very opaque, so a little bit goes a long way. So I'm just going to kind of add some little reflections in my glass. I'm going to do one that kind of goes across the stems, and that way it kind of makes it look like there's some depth there. Maybe one right here. And then let's add some of this along this waterline. This is going to really make it pop. Setting it along that waterline and tapping it in and pulling down just a little bit to soften that bottom edge of it, or I can kind of use my finger and rub it in. Okay, and then in front of my stems I want to tap in some white right there. So right where that water breaks, I want this white to go in front. Right there. And keep it kind of loose. I'm going to bring it around right here, just a little bit right there. And bring it out past the dark right here. A little bit. Okay.
Could someone use a zinc white?
Yes. Yeah. Zinc white's great to use for this because it's already transparent, so it works really well.
Okay, so no points deducted. Okay, good.
Yeah, I just didn't add it today. But yeah, I've used it quite a bit in water in previous lessons. All right, and then I'm gonna do just a few, like a little bit brighter, just really notch it, bring it up a notch. Okay, I think that's good. Don't want to overdo it. That's good. That's it. Let's do butterfly. Oh, we've got time. I'm going to use my white, a little bit of the Phthalo blue. Whew, just a little bit. Look how much that, just that little bit. Get some burnt sienna to kind of tone it. And then a little bit more white here. This had a little bit of my green in it, but that's great because this is kind of a turquoisey blue that I'm seeing, so I'm trying to get some of that. So maybe add a little bit of your yellow to this color too if you want. And the morphos are pretty easy to draw. I'm going to grab this, and their shape is basically their bottom and top wings are kind of just make a V right here. So it just kind of makes this little V shape right here. The split happens right here, but you don't see it because they're pressed so close together. And this one comes out like that. I'm wondering if I want to move it up, but no, I kind of like it right here. So I may have to add a leaf in here for it to land on. I didn't paint that leaf. And then I don't know if I want it to cover up that part of the junction of the stem, so I think I might move it up just a little bit. Move it to where it's just kind of barely touching, but not quite covering up that whole stem there. That'll be a little bit better composition, I think. Yeah, that'll be good. Right in there. These butterflies are huge, so they're probably much bigger than this. I don't know. This is photoshopped, so. Alright, let's go ahead and fill him in. My Aunt Nancy took this picture of the butterfly.
Ooh.
Thank you to her.
Your Aunt Nancy?
My Aunt Nancy. Nancy. There we go. Alright, and we'll do that little flicking technique to blend. So I'm going to get a little bit of the darker blue, and I'm going to go along the top, kind of from the center, and just kind of pull it out and down. Start from where you want it the darkest. Okay, that looks good. Get a little bit of the black. Build the body out. Use the tip, create that kind of shoulders and then the head. Cute. And then I'm going to tap and kind of pull along the edge in to create the dark border, and I'm going to use a little bit of burnt umber too because it's kind of brownish. So just tapping and pulling in And again, if you want to keep this really loose, just kind of do it lightly. Don't get too fussy with it. Pull along the edge of the brush to create that line there. Create that long line here. Pretty. And then again, I'm going to start at the top and just pushing in. And I'm just like literally flicking it as I'm getting to where I want it to blend in with that light blue. So really valuable technique to master. It'll save you a lot of time blending, especially if you like this style of painting. Even if you don't, it just saves time because you can do this. You can do this with any number of styles, even that realistic style. I still do this kind of blending. I just go back over it again and smooth it out and along the seams. But this is a good, like, initial layer, you know, that I'll do. And then I'll come in and soften up some of the transitions a little bit. But okay, works really good. I'm getting the burnt umber here. Trying to round out that tip there. The green paint's so thick right there, it's not one to let me paint over it. Looks good. I'm going to turn it so I can get a little bit smoother around this corner here. And I'm not going to do a whole lot more with this butterfly. I'm going to keep it fairly loose, just kind of like our flowers. We'll do a few more details, obviously, but I'm going to do a ton of layering. It looks pretty good. I think I want a leaf here, or maybe just a, I don't know, do I need a leaf? What do you think? What's the consensus, yes or no? You checking your TikTok? What are you doing?
Oh, wow. No, I was doing work.
Okay.
Ouch.
Hashtag true facts has happened.
Yes, that has happened in the past. Yes.
Usually bonus videos, though, when there's not as much chatting. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm just razzing on you, honey. You're awesome. You're awesome.
I may have been doing that earlier, but not when you called me out. I wasn't, fortunately. I was truly doing work.
Love it.
We got yes, leaf, yes on leaf.
Yes, leaf. Okay.
Yes to the leaf.
Okay. Yes to the leaf.
Yes,
okay.
leaf. Leaf emoji.
Leaf emoji. I like it. Well, now I have to do it. If they did leaf emoji, I don't even know where I'd find my leaf emoji. I'd have to really go searching for it. All right, so doing a little bit of black and just like I said, kind of cleaning up. What?
Is the butterfly in mid-flight or is it resting on something?
It's kind of, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think it was resting on something in the picture.
Photoshopped people.
Yeah, it's not from this photo, so it can be whatever we want it to be. But I don't want to do the antenna until we do the leaf. So about halfway up the leaf, or the wing here, there's like a little triangle here and about here or so. Little triangle that comes down. And then it kind of comes in and does like that, and then goes back to the center right there. Keep this very thin. I've switched to a 2 long round here, or a liner brush or whatever. Okay. And then there's some. Let's go ahead and do the separation between the wings, which is going to happen right up here. They're all attached like right in this section here. All the wings are attached right in here on a butterfly. So, and then you've got these little, almost like panes of glass that come down. That's what they remind me of. Alright, so I'm not going to do a ton of detail on him. That's good enough. And I was kind of dry brushing those almost, so they're pretty loose, very light, not solid lines at all. So let's get my green. Make some green here. Burnt sienna, phthalo blue, yellow. That looks close enough. All right, I'm going to do a leaf right here. I want to leave a little space between this one and that one. I don't want to crowd it. So I'm just going to kind of go like that. All right. I don't know. It looks all right, I guess. Go a little bit lighter with it. Get some white, a little bit of yellow. Now this side would be in shadow, so we could use our lighter sagey greens instead of the yellow greens. The ones in the sunlight would be more yellow green. And these ones that are in the shadow, we could go with a little bit more of the just white instead of the yellow added. A little trick. Okay. Getting black. Let's do our antenna. And get some white. I need a white. I'm out of white. I've kind of mixed it in. I had black on my brush, so it's going to mix in with like a gray. I'm just going to kind of do some very random, like little markings on the body. Get a little bit of my dark gray, maybe a little bit of brown. Cashmere's telling Mark it's time to stop. She needs cuddles. I took a picture of Mark today. He had both the animals on him. They were each one on his arms. So one had one arm and one had the other arm. It's like, you shall not use your arms right now. You shall not move. This is cuddle time. You will just stay right there and let us. So just kind of flicking in towards the middle of the butterfly there with this black. Ooh, that was a little more intense and aggressive than I really wanted it to be. It's always kind of pointing to that spot. So if you keep that in mind, then kind of the placement of these lines make more sense. They're all kind of where these black lines come down, these veins, these kind of come up a little bit higher. These lines are a little bit darker and more intense right there. All right, looks pretty good. Get the white. And we'll just dab in some white along the wings there. And they kind of start to fade away by there. Cashmere, what is she doing? Is she trying to get on your lap?
Yeah.
She's got things to say. She wants to get in front of that microphone. She's becoming bossy in her old age.
Mm-hmm.
She never used to be like this when the boys were around. She was pretty docile. And it's like, now that it's just Mark and I, she's like really asserting herself.
Yeah. I will be with you.
Yes, you will make room for me. This is going to happen. What?
Oh, people said that. Somebody said, oh, Max sees the kitty. I don't know if Max is a cat or a dog. Just like how our dog reacts to animals on TV.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they're. Yeah, we watch animal TV all the time with Fitzy. He literally sits up and watches it with us like a person. Literally sitting up. I'm not kidding. It's really hilarious. Just like a person. Yep, this is good TV. What were we watching the other day? I don't remember.
A lot of stuff.
Oh, we were watching that Wildcat show in the jungle with the guy in the jungle.
Oh, yeah.
Raising the was it a lynx? Ocelot, that's it. Yeah, that was a cool show, actually. Really cool. Yeah, Fitzy thought it was amazing. He loved it. 10 stars.
10 paws.
Yeah.
10 treats.
Yes. Making a light version here. I'm using this. This brush makes dry brushing so much easier too. So this is the blender, the 1/4 inch size. Okay, just adding that kind of glow there, and then I want the phthalo blue in all its glory with some glaze here. This is going to really pop. So this is glazing is something that we'll also go over soon, probably in more detail, but basically you're just adding a transparent layer of color over your other colors here. This is the phthalo blue with my glaze. I had a little bit of that whitish color on my brush still too, so that is tinting it a little bit, softening it a little bit. But with glazes you generally want to use a transparent color and no white or anything like that, no opaque color that's gonna dull it. Right, I want a little bit more. Now I'm going to use the color pretty much solid, just right in here. Really solid blue, and really intensify that color so it's almost black right in here. Okay. I'm going to use a little bit of that glaze color. I should have used a little bit of it down in here. Let me grab a little bit of that glaze. I have no place to My palette is full. I I'm just going to use a little bit of that glaze kind of down here where that black and the blue meet. Just a little bit of it. And it should be transparent so that this should be going over that black. It shouldn't tint, you shouldn't see it at all. It should just kind of blend into that black totally. All right, that looks pretty good. I mean, I could go back in and add some more highlights to my petals, like I might do that over here, but I'm pretty darn happy with how they're looking, so I don't want to mess with them too much, because that one I don't love. That one I think is got, maybe could use some work. So I'm going to single load this on the corner of this brush with white here, and we'll float in some highlights on some of these petals. I'm going to try to go over the same area. You can't see what I'm doing there. Okay, and then I'm just going to kind of rub off any areas where it needs to blend. Looks good. Let's do it this one here. This will make a difference here.
So to get that, the I guess it's a lighter or brighter blue, would you add more white to it?
This color?
Yeah, like the butterfly.
This color was white, but no, you don't. You don't get that bright blue by adding white.
Okay, so like
You have to put the lighter color down first, and then glaze over it with your transparent blue.
Okay, so to get the look of
To get this look.
of the butterfly in the reference photo,
Yes.
to get it that light or bright or whatever.
Yeah, I didn't go as bright as I could have. Oh, you're talking about that super shiny.
Yes.
Okay.
How would you get there?
Okay,
Somebody
I can
wants
do.
to
I can
know.
do that.
Ooh. She says with a sigh.
That's fine. I just.
And that's legitimate. It's fine. It's not like it's fine when she's talking to me where I know I'm in trouble. I can tell the difference. And that's not it.
Yeah.
So what are you doing to get there?
I'm making a turquoise here with a little bit of yellow in my blue, but I'm using a little bit brighter tones. I'm not adding the burnt sienna to it. And then I'll add my white. And I just have to go a little bit more saturated with my color.
Okay.
And then I need to add brighter whites on top. So I need just my white here with my what's left in my blue brush here. Ooh, it doesn't want to cover. So I started with kind of more of a mid-tone. So if you want to do this like super bright, you have to start with a lighter tone. So I'm doing the white on top of this, but really you could do just the white first.
Somebody's looking good there.
Yeah, it's getting a little closer to what you want.
The one thing that you said was you said that you had a little bit of yellow.
I did a little
That's
bit of
something
yellow.
that I didn't see coming. That's one of those things I think that beginners don't see and know. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, the yellow just made that phthalo blue a little bit more turquoise.
Okay.
That's why I used it. than that, because when I put my color over the top of it, it'll darken it up. I don't know if I can get the color I need with phthalo blue. I'd probably need a phthalo turquoise to get that bright of a turquoise color. But you'll at least kind of get an idea. Use more white here. Go brighter still. And the reason I went with the blue first is just because I'm going to see that blue kind of around the edges. So but I could have, well, shoot, I just didn't mean to do that. I looked away. I could have started with this lighter color. Honestly, it's probably could have been lighter to start with. But see how I left that darker blue around the edges, so that's kind of what I was trying to do there. And then I'm going to get some of my phthalo blue and transition right in this area. Kind of blend that out a little bit. I lost all my lines, so I'm going to have to redo those.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, this would probably be better for another.
Man, whoever in chat asked that question, if I miss Oak Island because of this, just saying, you know,
Their fault.
You know who you are.
All right, we'll let that dry. I'm gonna finish this up because I've got wet paint on this brush that's drying. There we go. So just leaving it right at the top there where I want it the brightest. Alright. Gonna. Oh, there's my white. Gonna do another petal right here to kind of transition over the top of those two. There we go. That's better. I hope David Jensen or whatever his name is doesn't watch this, because I'm sure he's like, no, no,
Like nails on a
don't
chalkboard.
look. Don't look. Yeah, I'm just trying to fix it and probably making it worse, but that's okay. There we go. All right. Whew. Sometimes less is more. Okay, there we go. We're going to leave that. I don't think I improved it at all, but we tried. Okay, I'm going to leave it. I keep saying I'm going to leave it, and I keep messing with it.
Yes,
I could see my green stem through that one, so I needed to touch it up there. Oh, is that dry? Not quite. Get a turquoise. Yellow turquoise can be my color. I almost added it, but I thought I could get close to it, but I'm not liking the cadmium yellow medium. Maybe a cadmium yellow light would have given me a cleaner turquoise for glazing purposes, but you want a transparent color when you're glazing, and adding cadmium yellow, which is an opaque color, is not going to get you there. So if I knew I was going to do my butterfly this way, I would have chosen a different, had added the turquoise to my palette. So getting some yellow here with my white. Add a few more of the highlights there. I think that's close enough. Let's just, fingers crossed, hope for the best here. So I'm going to get my glaze. Matte medium. Water's fine in a pinch, but I prefer using a glaze because it makes you know that it's going to stick, which is important if you are going to be doing multiple layers on top of this, you know. So wipe most of that out. I don't want a lot of glaze to start with. I just want to kind of tint and see what it does. So there we go. All right, so, and I probably, if I did bright white here, I probably would have gotten even brighter results. I probably could have gotten a little bit brighter with my white here in some places.
Okay, you convinced me. I'll subscribe to your channel.
Oh. I think we are one of the most diverse, I have to say. We do show a lot of different styles, at least in acrylic painting. I don't do any other kind of paintings, but I do know how to do acrylic painting. So we've done just about all the kind of different kinds of styles there is, except for maybe pouring. I don't do that. I don't do the paint pouring. All right, I'm going to get my black here, and while that's drying, I'm going to add back in my stripes and things that I missed when I fix the Mark's literally going and starting up Oak Island out there. He's not kidding when he's like, fan. All right, I'm ending.
What?
I said I'll end.
We still got super chat to do.
Okay. All right, here we go. I'm gonna let that dry. All right, while you're doing that,
Doing super chat.
doing super chat, I'll do one last layer, then it's glaze, but I'm gonna dry it, so I
Alright.
might turn off my mic while I'm drying it.
Super chat. So yeah, we had a super chat tonight. I will turn on the little thingamabobber here. And the super chat tonight was from Cindy and says, I'm loving the new weekly teaching tips.
Oh, good, good. I am too. They're really fun, and I hope I've gotten such good feedback on them. I don't know why I haven't done these before.
And then after last week's show, there was a PayPal donation from, and I am so sorry, I'm going to butcher your name. I'm going to say it's Sredna Kanowski. It's spelled Sredna. So thank you very much.
Sredna?
And then the other one was from Haley Schoenberg. So thank you so much for the
They're
PayPal.
really fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun to get those during the week, and a nice little surprise.
That's super.
Nice.
And then we had questions. Let me see if I can find them because they dropped off my board here. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so the questions that we had tonight, and they fell off my board here. How do you decide what color or colors of background to use for the undercoating?
I usually look to see whatever is my main color and use something that would complement it. So in this case, this color, that burnt orange was going to be the main color in our flowers, and so I knew it would look good underneath these. I probably could have gone darker, and I might even just still add that while we're doing our talking.
Okay. And then the other question we had was...
this is turquoise again, so just doing this again because I just added bright white in some places. So I'm going to glaze it again. Go.
The other question is, how do you suggest to hang the canvas board?
Oh, yeah. So there are frames that you can get at like Hobby Lobby, sells them really cheap. And my trick is that if you get them to put your painting in the open back frame, they will be on sale. So that's how you get the sale price. Even if they're not on sale, if they do the framing for you, they give you half off of the price of the frame. So, and basically they just pop it into this frame that has no glass and staple it
Okay.
inside. Or if you don't want to do that, you can get yourself a tabletop easel. They have really pretty decorative ones. I have all kinds of different ones here throughout the house, and they just fold out and you can set it in there on a little easel. It just raises it up and elevates it a little bit. Or you could use a little wood block or something like that lifts it up. Just something to lift it off the surface. It somehow like makes it look a little bit nicer, and just prop it up, in a corner with some support behind it. Or you can also put a Velcro or like one of those command strips back here, or even just hot glue a piece of ribbon on the back and hang it that way. You can do it from the corners if you want the ribbon to show. There's all kinds of different ways to do it. So yeah, pretty easy.
Okay. And what is your PayPal? Somebody wanted to know.
It is angelasartistry@gmail.com. Be sure you get it right, though, because there have been a couple people that have sent it to the wrong. There's another Angela Anderson on there that has gotten some money. You could also try Thankful Art at Venmo, but Angela's Artistry from PayPal is the one, and it's down in the description. You can see I have the PayPal. I think I even have the PayPal link down there. So, and then you'll know you're at the right one. I don't have my Venmo.
There's a Patreon on YouTube. But it is right there. Yeah. No, Patreon, Thankful Art, Etsy, Teespring.
Yeah.
Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram.
Mm-hmm. All the social media links down there.
I don't see PayPal.
All right. Well, this was fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. Do your practice. I think that even if you don't paint this, that doing those little practice things with, even if you don't ever paint a flower, I'm telling you, those practice things are going to get you painting, get you inspired, get you just using your brushes, pulling out your paints, doing something, and I feel like it's a way to kind of track your progress too. But using those techniques that I showed you and just doing that, just getting the control of the manipulation of your brush to do those little brush strokes that I was showing, and the little flicking motions and all of these different turning of your brush and manipulating it in different ways will help you with anything else that you do. So it doesn't have to be petals. What you're doing is building building your manipulation of your brush, your skills on handling a brush, how to load it, that kind of thing. And that will take you any place you want to go in the future. So I would say, even if you don't like this particular style of painting these kind of flowers, you can still learn something just by doing those practice steps. So I hope you guys try it. Hope you like it. And we'll keep doing them because people seem to really like them. And I really enjoy it. It kind of gives me a little bit extra something to think about during the week and kind of come up with some ways to break these lessons down, because it can seem overwhelming where you're seeing this huge, this finished painting and having to do all of these different steps to do a painting like this. And this one is not a beginner level necessarily painting, I would say. It's got a lot of steps to it. So, but I think that if you do the practices, and this one is a Posca pen, by the way. I'll get asked that, so I'm just going to say it.
You knew it was
preemptively. Coming. It's a white 0.7 millimeter nib. So those are the 7.7 is about the biggest you want to go for signing anything. It's an acrylic marker, so it dries like acrylic paint does. So I went a little bit darker in that corner. Probably could go darker still, but it's good enough for now. So yeah, I like it. Hope you guys like it.
Very nice.
It turned out really realistic. And
yeah, that is sweet.
Not that hard. With some practice, I'm pretty rusty at it. So with some practice, I would have been even faster. But at least you kind of got to see. I feel like I could leave that one off and be happier.
Let's be honest.
Let's just be honest. I kind of still don't really love that one, but I really like how these two turned out. So there we go. I'm happy about those. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching tonight. Hope you have a great rest of your day and week. And we will see you next week with, what are we doing next week? Oh, we're doing some macarons. So we're going to work on blending next week. So be sure to check that out. All right. We'll see you then. Bye. Thanks for watching.